now. Okay, we're going to look at some resource reuse in the context of the National Industrial Symbiosis Programme, which is NISP. I'm going to outline how NISP can help facilitate resource reuse and give you a little bit of context about NISP and what it can do to help and where you can find sources of help through the NISP programme. My name is Emma Adam and I'm from SAFESPUR. We're a delivery partner in the northwest of England on behalf of NISP. So in terms of what NISP is, NISP stands for the National Industrial Symbiosis Programme. It's a national programme that runs throughout England. It's mostly based in England now. Scotland it's delivered differently through the Zero Waste Scotland programme. But there is a little bit over in Northern Ireland as well. And in the northwest, it's delivered by SKM Enviros, which is who I work for, and we're the Northwest Delivery Partner. We work closely with the main sort of resource efficiency bodies within the northwest, people like EnviroLink and NWorks. National NISP will also work with various regional delivery bodies, local authorities, and national organisations such as RAP. Overall, NISP is managed by international synergies, but each region has its own delivery partner. So each region will have its own focus and its own separate practitioners and its own contact details, etc. NISP is funded by the Waste Resource and Action Programme, and the aim is to encourage and promote industrial symbiosis throughout England. So in terms of what is industrial symbiosis, the idea is to bring what are traditionally separate industries together to find innovative solutions. It's not just about waste, it involves things, although waste is a big part of it, it also involves energy, water, and any sort of byproducts that a company have. And what NISP will try to do is to look at what resources a company has or needs, and we'll then use our local expertise, local knowledge, a local database to try and find a solution for that company. So, traditionally, it may be that companies within the same sector have maybe worked together, but what NISP will try to do is to find solutions outside of traditional industries. So, for example, NISP in the past has, found a solution for local authority road signs that have been gone to be repaired and reused with in a prison environment. So you'll have prisoners replacing those road signs. The idea being that it saves the council quite a lot of money in recycling and replacement costs, and it also gives the prisoners some useful activity while they are locked up. So it's examples like that. We'll try to look for innovation. And it's about thinking outside of the box and trying to find new and sometimes innovative solutions, and giving companies a little bit of hand-holding, really. The idea being to make some sort of cultural change, to think differently about how we manage our resources. So in terms of where NISP operates, there are 12 regional NISP offices across the UK. The Northwest office, the Northwest region is headed up by ourselves from Salford in Manchester. There's one for the North East, Humber, East Midlands, London, South East, etc. The Midlands team, etc., etc. And each regional delivery partner will have their own particular arrangements, although it's all sort of branded under one heading. What each region also has is a business, what they call Programme Advisory Group, which is an industry-led committee of people who are there to provide support and engagement and give an industry perspective on how the programme is run, to try and make sure that we're delivering what industry actually requires us to deliver. Membership of NISP is quite diverse. It includes a lot of small companies, right the way from sort of small SMEs right up to big multinational companies. So overall, how does NISP work? The aim of NISP, as identified before, is to encourage companies to think differently about their resources. It's to try and change the thinking of what, I guess, waste and byproducts and anything like that is, and to encourage us to use resources more sustainably. So rather than having something that you don't need anymore and throwing it away through the traditional waste management route, what this tries to do is to encourage people to think differently and to look for options where they can change the management of those what are effectively wasted resources for that company. So how we do this varies really depending on the company. We sort of tailor our approach to what each company needs, but there's a telephone line that you can call. The details will be at the end of the presentation, so you can either ring up with what we call a resource have or resource want. So a company will ring up and say that they have a material or a resource that they have that they want to find an outlet for. Other times we'll have companies ring up and say that they have a resource that they need, so it's something that they actually want. Whichever way around it is, the aim of the NISP practitioner is to try and facilitate that process. So we'll take those queries, whether they come telephone or email, and we will try to look through the database that NISP has that's online. That's not only will we try to look within the region that the company sits in, but we'll also try to look nationally because it is a national database, and we'll try and find what we call a match where we could potentially take that material or that resource to with another company. And the role of the NISP practitioner is to kind of facilitate that process and facilitate the moving from a sort of initial idea of, well, we have this material and we want somewhere for it to go, we want to do something good with it, right the way through to that material actually changing hands. Sometimes we come across barriers along the way, but the idea is that we're there to kind of handhold a little bit and to provide support for the companies. In addition to the sort of telephone and email advice and being there to receive queries coming in that direction, NISP will also run some events. So we'll do what are called networking events, where we essentially run what's referred to as a kind of speed dating for business, where businesses will come along to the event and they're usually tailored to a sector. So we'll perhaps have one for manufacturing, or we've done ones in the past for construction, food and drink, that kind of thing. You'll bring companies that are in a similar sector together in one room, and you'll also have a lot of solution providers, so some waste management companies or whatever particular solutions can be provided for that area. And essentially we'll try to get people to talk and share information, and we'll capture all that and send it out on the day after the event. So that's another thing that NISP does. It'll run events to help facilitate and find solutions. A few examples of where NISP has done this. In the southeast, NISP facilitated an exchange of material between two companies. One company contacted the NISP practitioner and had some surplus crushed concrete material. The NISP practitioner looked through the local memberships, found a solution that in this instance could have resulted in the material being taken for free, although I will stress that it doesn't always necessarily mean that we can get your materials, resources taken away for free. It is subject to market forces. So if there's a charge for that material, then there is a charge for that material, unfortunately. The result of this meant that there was quite a lot of environmental and cost savings. For the company who had the material to dispose of, there's about 15,000 in savings from avoiding having to send it for disposal. And there was also additional sales secured for the company who received the material, because they were then able to sell it on as a product. Diverted about 600 tonnes from landfill and prevented the extraction of about 622 tonnes of virgin material, and saved about 61 tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent. So there's some quite big environmental savings that can be used from looking at looking at concrete and finding an alternative to traditional disposal routes for concrete, all of which NISP can help to achieve. The second example involved the company involved, Burst Civils, were looking to create a new link road. They were looking for a sustainable material to use the diversion of the canal, and they had already looked at the idea of using tyres and tyre bales. However, the problem that they were having was that they couldn't find a supplier who was willing to take them away at the end of the project. So while you would have used a sustainable material, ultimately you'd have ended up with quite a lot of waste at the end of the job if they couldn't find a reuse, couldn't find a return supplier for them. So the NISP practitioner looked and did a bit more digging and a bit more hand-holding for Burst Civils, and actually found a supplier who was able to take them back at the same time, once they were completed. So the outcome was, again, quite a significant cost saving for Burst Civils, and a really good CO2 reduction, along with diversions from landfill and reduction in virgin materials. So again, the whole idea is that NISP is there to try and encourage people to think differently about their resources and look for alternative solutions, and do a bit of the legwork really to try and facilitate the actual improved movement of this material so that it's managed far more sustainably. In addition to this, outside of NISP, there is the Demolition Protocol, and the Demolition Protocol can help to facilitate resource reuse. The whole idea of it is that it's based around the idea of a pre-demolition audit. So you'd look at a building, assess the quantity and the type of material that's available, and the value of that material. And the idea is that it's supposed to help you plan what can be done with the material before you actually start to demolish the building. A demolition contractor will do this as a kind of way of getting to know what information is in for themselves for when they're taking the building down. But the Demolition Protocol goes a little bit further and tries to get the demolition contractor to feed that information back so that it's a bit more transparent in terms of how much material is there and what can be done with it. And what you'll end up with is two indexes. So you'll end up with a Demolition Recovery Index, which is a key performance indicator that basically measures the proportion of materials that are reused, so anything that's not gone into landfill. Or you can end up with a Retained Materials Index, depending on the site, and that's related to the proportion of materials that are retained actually on that site, rather than being taken off-site for disposal. So what you'll end up with, if you do take the Demolition Protocol route, is a table that looks like this. So by each material and component within the building, or whatever it is that's being demolished, you look at the recovery potential. So that's getting the person developing the table and doing the audit to think, right, well, what can be done with this material? So, for example, concrete can be used to recycle concrete aggregate. In this instance, there was an in-situ quantity of 2,500 tonnes, and the contractor suggested that they could probably get 2,000 tonnes of that actually recovered, which gives a recovery index for concrete of 80%. And then what you would do is you can, if you develop this sort of table, you can then use facilities through NISP to say, right, well, we're struggling with maybe finding an outlet, or can we do anything higher end use? So rather than sending the concrete for recycled concrete aggregate and sending it off-site to a waste management company, is there a local site nearby that maybe needs to use it? And so you can explore these options with NISP if you've got all this information up and running. So just to wrap up, NISP is there as a national programme. It is free to join, so membership of NISP is free, and the amount of the time that's provided from the practitioners is free. At the moment, obviously, the funding arena is changing with regard to public funded organisations, but at the moment We do know we've got funding for another year for NISP. It's just how those services get distributed may be subject to some change going forward. But at the moment, it is a free organisation providing free support. The contact details for NISP North West telephone number is there. That's my mobile number and my email address for NISP. So thank you very much for listening, and hopefully you found today informative.